Hey guys, it's the plant doctor here coming to you live from my office. Make sure you hang out with us until the end of the video because I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed at the size of these annuals that you're going to see here at the end. So make sure you hang out with us till the end and I promise you will not be disappointed. Before we stick the first annual in the ground, we've got to do some bed prep. If you put annuals in native soil, not going to do too well. Okay, so what I like to do, the area that I'm going to put my perennials in, or excuse me, my annuals in, is I'll prep the native soil. What do I mean by that? I'm going to till it or take a rake and turn it over 2 or 3 inches, and then once I do that, I'm going to incorporate some potting mix over the top of that, about 3 or 4 inches of potting mix. And the potting mix that I like to use is this Miracle-Gro potting mix. Okay, and all it is, guys, there's nothing special about this. I know Miracle-Gro makes it and they advertise it has fertilizer in it, but if you look at the guaranteed analysis, it's less than 1% nitrogen, less than 1% phosphorus, less than 1% potassium. So I add nutrients to it, but I want to show you the texture. It's pretty good in terms of texture. So this is mainly a mixture of peat moss, pine bark, and it looks like some vermiculite in here. Good water retention agents, and that's really what I'm after here. I'm not after the nutrient content of this. I'm after its ability to hold water. I can add nutrients, and that's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so once I have that 3 inches or so of potting mix down on the soil, I'm going to cover that up with some very fine pine bark mulch. I put my mulch down before I put my annuals in. I don't like to put my annuals in and then put the mulch down because the mulch tends to sit on top of the annuals. It doesn't look good. So I put my mulch in first, and this is what I'm using. This is essentially just some very, very fine shredded pine bark mulch. I don't like using the big pine bark mulch. In my experience here, if we get a big rain, it likes to float. It ends up in the grass, and then I'm cleaning it up. I found this smaller stuff, it gets down in between the leaves of the annuals better. It sits on the ground better. And if we get a big rain, it's not going to wash away. I think that's mainly because the roots of the annuals that we're putting in the ground, they'll start to root into that mulch a little bit and hold it in place. And so I prefer a smaller mulch. Now, in terms of nutrients, one of the things that I'm going to do with the nutrients is I'm going to enhance the plant's ability to uptake nutrients. So this is a product made by earthmax, or excuse me, by Harold's, called earthmax. This is earthmax, and all this is humic acid. There's really, if I look at the guaranteed analysis on here, it's almost like the Miracle-Gro potting mix. There's not a whole lot. There's no nitrogen in it. There's a little bit of phosphorus, a little bit of potassium. But what this does for me, there's been research to indicate this increases the cation exchange capacity, CEC for short, of the soil without getting into soil chemistry too much. Basically, this enhances the plant's ability to uptake nutrients from the soil. I've used this in the past. There's several different companies that are going to make this. And basically what you do on this product, we're going to mix it up 4 ounces to the gallon of water, and then just spread it over our annual bed area. The last thing I'm going to do, I've got a 90-day slow release prill. Just typical fertilizer. So this is a 1010, and it has some micros in it as well. It's got some iron and some manganese and stuff like that. I'm going to put about 1 pound of that down over the area that we're going to put the annuals in today. Much more than that, it starts to be a little excessive for the square footage that we're looking at today in terms of planting. But it is a slow release. It's a 90-day slow release, so I'm not really going to burn the plants with a slow release fertilizer. Okay. I told you that I put that humic acid down to begin with, and I'm going to do that every 2 weeks. I'm going to mix up 4 ounces of that humic acid to 1 gallon of water, and I'm going to spread it over my annuals. But on the weeks that I'm not doing that, so every other week I'm putting humic acid down, and then every other week I'm going to use Miracle-Gro liquid plant food. So basically what this is a wettable powder. These come with a hose attachment, and I'm going to water with that. So for example, let's say I'm going to do this on a Monday. So one Monday I'm going to do humic acid, 7 days later Miracle-Gro, the next Monday humic acid, the next Miracle-Gro, throughout the entire growing season. And by August your annuals are going to be huge. All right, so that's how I prep my annual beds, and that's kind of how I fertilize throughout the entire season. Let's take a look how I'm going to install these. So I have these marigolds and these Vinca started in these what we call 72 cell trays. And I've got some more marigolds here in this larger tray as well. I got these as little tiny plugs, and I've been growing them out. But what we're going to do, I'm going to plant these on what we call 6-inch centers. So my hand trowel here that's 6 inches. The metal part of this, the blade part of this, is 6 inches. I'm going to be using this as a measuring tool. You can use a tape measure or a ruler if you wanted to, anything. And if you're planning on a foot, of course it's 12 inches, but we're going to do 6 inches today because I want this just to be a solid mass of plants in a couple of weeks. And the closer you get them together, the more of a mass you're going to have. All right, so this is pretty simple. I'm going to pop out one of my marigolds. I'm going to take my blade and I'm going to measure. I'll put my first one right here. I can do this by hand because this ground is really soft, because remember, we just put this in. This is potting mix. So I just dig down in the potting mix. There's one, measure 6 inches. Pop another one out, and notice what I did there, folks. I did not just go in there and just yank out a plant, because what you can do with this is, and I've seen this happen before, you'll pull the vegetative material away from the root, and the root's still in the pot and you're holding a stem. So always kind of loosen up the bottom of your cell a little bit, especially if you see roots coming out of the drain holes, and it'll come out much easier. And I'm going to measure another 6 inches, and then we're going to keep moving down the line. So this is about 3 weeks after planting. You can see these marigolds fielding really nice. This verbena has actually gotten fairly bigger than what I thought it would get, which is nice. So the oranges and the purples, they play well off each other. You may have noticed in the beginning of the video we had mulch in here. I went ahead and I scooped that mulch out, and I put in gravel, and then I had some leftover pavers from a job, and I used that as edging. Reason being, I was getting a lot of rain runoff from the patio coming down, and it was washing my mulch out into the grass, so I just went with a heavier material. But you can see here the annuals are doing very well on that fertilizer 1 week, and then earthmax the next week pattern that we've put them on.